This is the project pitch for my podcast series In Conversation With. Now, for my FMP, I will be creating a new podcast series where I interview individuals from the radio industry. I'll be using the skills that I've acquired from radio presenting on Youth's Choice, audio editing as part of my course here at the Global Academy, and producing other people's shows as well. I completed an interview with Pandora from Heart on the 10th of March, and this was before I'd even thought about doing anything for my FMP. But when I realised that I had all of this footage, it would be a waste not to use it. So I thought I'm going to edit the audio and release it as what is now the first episode of In Conversation With. I was then going to edit the YouTube video and make that a more long-form, unabridged version, which would then go up on YouTube. One thing that I'm hoping is that these episodes will allow listeners to gain insight from a positive and cheery individual like Pandora who came from humble beginnings. Also, as the interviewer, I ensured that the questions that I was asking were giving me the information that an aspiring radio host like myself, like others at the Global Academy, would want to absorb and take in. So my FMP will focus on 3 episodes. I've already recorded the Pandora one, so I believe that given that I now have 3 months, I have the time and the facilities to produce at least 2 more in the time allowed. And after the FMP season is over, I would love to continue doing the series, which is something I've already started putting into plan, interviewing other radio presenters and just people from the media industry in general. My target audience is mainly 14 to 30-year-olds with a passion for the radio industry. For example, I chose Pandora as my first guest as she's climbed the ranks in the industry, collecting interesting stories, and she is a household name that almost everyone has heard of, and I think she would be the perfect person for my listeners to take advice and inspiration from. Now, constraints that I may come across are potentially running out of time to complete the project. I think I've given myself a fairly manageable number of tasks to do, and if for some reason I don't complete them all, I've already got the Pandora interview, so I know that at least 1 episode will be going out. Another constraint is poor audio or video quality. However, both of these were recorded using Global HQ's software, and potential future episodes will be done using the Academy's facilities, so nothing should go wrong in terms of the audio or the video quality. Another one is that I may not have access to the software, but I've got all the Adobe editing suite on my laptop, so whether I'm on site at school or not, I should still be able to do what I need to do. As the majority of my listeners will be fellow students and probably presenters on Youth's Choice, they will be interested in hearing my guests' career stories and their tips for an aspiring radio presenter. And also, given that my target audience is 14 to 30-year-olds, they should be using social media regularly, and thus they'll be seeing my teasers on Instagram and leading them to either listen to the episode on Spotify or watch it on YouTube. I also think that the audio and video recordings should be fairly straightforward to edit, and it shouldn't cause me that many issues. The resources that I will be using for this project will be Adobe editing software such as Audition, Premiere Pro, Photoshop, etc. These will allow me to edit and make sure that everything is ready for upload as I need to. I'll also be using these to create my branding and my thumbnails for the videos and for the podcast. I'll record an intro and an outro to the podcast in a radio studio on site. This should not take me very long at all, max 10-15 minutes. And I will be making use of the facilities in the Leicester Square building to record some of my episodes, as well as in the Academy, as my guests will probably be spending most of their time in the Leicester Square office, and I'll be spending most of my time here. I will measure my success based on a number of factors. So I'll be doing a focus group / a premiere for my video. That way I can then get feedback from my peers or from my teachers. I'll also be doing the same for the first episode of the podcast. I'll also be looking at the viewership numbers because, for example, the Tony and Ryan podcast have very good engagement on social media with their best bits from their episodes and fairly interesting thumbnails, as you can see there. Now, I would love this podcast to become incredibly successful, even beyond my FMP. In only a matter of years, it could go from being a few episodes used for a project to a popular series that could eventually become a source of income. And my 3 guests for this podcast, my first episode will be interviewing Pandora Christie from Heart. She does weekdays 10 till 1. She also does Club Classics on a Saturday 7 until 11. My second guest will be James Hall from Radio X. He also does work for Capital. He hosts Weekend Breakfast 6 till 8 a.m. And my third and final guest for the FMP season will be Kemi Rogers, who works for Capital and Capital Extra. She does weekdays 1 till 4 a.m. and Saturdays 4 until 7 p.m.